Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Railworld, where in the previous episode we finally arrived in the Midpoint base. It's been a while, we haven't been here since before 0.12, but we finally returned, having had some fun with all the new 0.12 stuff over in the main base, set up some rocket things, and so we're finally going to continue the work that we left off with when we were last here. So I'm going to pop over to the iron, see what the situation is, and it's barely changed. While we've been away, the factory has been basically not doing anything because its entire purpose really is to supply the megatrain. So when the megatrain's not there, it sort of shuts down, which means that it's been fine. There's been no problems at all. It's not even been attacked, I don't think. So that's good. Though I do notice that a base is getting a little bit close to the iron mine. If things picked up, then the pollution might reach that. So you do want to go over there at some point and deal with it. Probably at some point when we set off back on our journey around the lake, because that shouldn't be too far off now. We're, like we were going to do that as soon as we finished the midpoint, and it's mostly done already. And there's just a couple of little bits left that we can mess about with. So I'm setting up some new defences on the iron mine. We've got a bunch of new supplies now because I think we were getting a little bit low in certain areas when we left, so there were a couple of things we couldn't finish off. We've now got all the walls and the stone and things we could ever need. It's being delivered to the factory and everything. So we can finish off all the walls and stuff like that, and also the remaining production. So I've decided I'm going to connect up the two outposts. I wasn't sure last time whether I should just keep the iron and the main midpoint base separate. I'm going to have them all behind one wall, but I think I'm also going to have a partitioning wall in between them, because the iron one will be a little bit more difficult to keep an eye on, with it being a bit out of the way. We'll only be checking on it very rarely. So we'll have a sort of second line of defense in case the outpost falls, because it could easily do that out here in the wilderness. The biters are advancing, behemoths are a thing, and they're dangerous, so we want to watch out for that. Anyway, I'm doing some more flooring. I'm continuing on from where I was last episode. I just want to try and get the entire outpost floored. If possible, I want to get like the entire peninsula floored, though I don't know how sort of reasonable that is. I might just go for the factory and leave it at that. It's going to take a while and a lot of stone, which is being slowly delivered up by our handy stone train. Though I'm not quite happy with the situation with it. It's not delivering them quick enough. There's only 2 smart inserters working on it. And then it feeds into one chest, and that one chest slowly empties over time. And it finishes emptying before the stone train gets back. So it's not brilliant. But I do a bit of messing about. I've got a buffer chest in place. And I've also got that buffer chest feeding into a provider chest. So the buffer chest will initially take 2 stacks of stone, and then once it's got those 2 stacks and the provider chest is full, it will switch to just acting as a usual buffer chest. So I'm having a look for where the stone train is to try and work out how often it visits. I see that there's one there, but I don't know whether that is the stone train or not. I can't remember if there's a second one, whether I have one that goes to the midpoint and one that goes to the main base, or whether the same one train goes to both, because both are fairly reasonable. In fact, it probably makes more sense to have one stone train going to both, because we really don't need that much stone at any one time. We're just making concrete slowly. We've got one assembler at the main base and one here, so it's not like we need a huge rate of stone coming through. So anyway, checking once again on the stone line, and it has run out, and the train has not got back yet, so that's annoying. Really, we want the supply to be constant, so that we can have a constant supply of concrete being made because of how much of it we'll need. So I'm having a quick look at it, and I'm thinking up ways to rearrange it and make it unload a bit quicker. And there are very simple ways it could be done, but for some reason I go for this convoluted design instead, where we have lots of hopping from one chest to another, and it means that we now have 3 smart inserters unloading from the train. And it arrives just on time, so we can test the system, and it does improve it. We get more, so I guess that's good, but it's a bit messy, and I am going to fix it later and make it make a bit more sense. So we'll leave that to do its stuff. I do move around the provider chest a bit so that we can get a higher loading rate, just in case we need it, and also gives even more priority to the provider chest, because that's what feeds the stone into the rail production, and the rail production is it's supposed to be the main export of the midpoints, which it should definitely take priority even over concrete. Concrete is entirely for sort of aesthetic purposes, really. I mean, we can run around quicker, but there's not that much difference. And indeed, when I'm running around and it feels a bit too fast, like I need to take off the exoskeleton suit I've got on, because I can't I'm just moving too fast. I can't stop where I want to stop and stuff like that. So we're going to check up on the megatrain, work out what is being supplied and what isn't, because what we want to do is get everything in the megatrain either being unloaded here or produced and loaded back into the train here. And I've got most of it sorted already, but there's a few things in the last 2 cargo wagons, which I'm going to call 8 and 9, that need to be sorted. I realise I always refer to them as like the third last and second last cargo wagon, and seeing as there are 10, it is quite easy to keep track if you just number them. So we're currently working on cargo wagon 9. It's full of belts and things like that, walls, and it's also got the concrete in it. So I'm going to set up the remaining loading for it, I think. We're going to load in the 2 kinds of chests that we've got, the stone and the steel, not the stone chests? Stone chests aren't a thing in this. The wooden chests and the steel ones. I don't really need to be honest, because it is just some chests. And actually, I think I forgot to set up the production of those in the end. I think that's the only production that I've missed. By the end of the episode, everything else is either being made or unloaded. And I don't think it's really worth setting up production of the chests anyway, because they were just there for completeness. All the stuff I'm doing at this point is for completeness, and I don't really feel that I need to put the production in. I just wanted to have it all set up properly. It's more of just a challenge to myself, because of course with the science being done, at this point I just make my own aims. I mean, there's launching the rocket, and that's going on back at the main base, but out here on the lake, it's entirely I'm entirely following my own goals here, going around the lake, setting up a base on the other side, making the megatrain a thing and stuff like that. So anyway, we've got the production of mining drills and furnaces. Furnaces being a bit fiddly because they use a lot of advanced circuits, and we're not making those here. We could, because it is just copper circuits and plastic, but we also have a limited plastic supply. But I'm definitely not setting a full set of oil production up in the midpoint. That's just too messy, and I can never be bothered with oil. I just set it up so that it works, and then leave it at that. I never actively seek out to do more oil stuff than I need to, apart from to make sure it's sort of efficient in the long run and things like that. Once again, checking through the different bits needed for various stuff. We've still got pump jacks and radars to set up, because it's vitally important that we assemble those on site. Also, lights need assembling, and the different kinds of inserters. And at that point, I think we will have the entirety of the megatrain covered. So I'm just setting up a couple of bits of production around in the main base. We've got I need to siphon off the pipes and the iron rods that we've got, so that we can make pump jacks and lights, because they both use those too. Well, one uses one, the other uses the other. And the stone train arrives, so I have a quick check of it, see how it's going. The system's operating, but it's rubbish. And I'm having a bit of an inspection of it. I just decide to leave it for now, but it's... Or do I? This is one of those things where I once again forget whether... Okay, yeah, this is the point where I decide to change it. After having a proper look at it, after I've set it up, I realise that there is a much simpler way to do it, which is the standard way that I do an unloading system for a train. I think the only reason I didn't do it here is because this is a bit of a different one, where we have one station that has to deal with everything. So it's occasionally loading wood in, it's unloading coal and then putting the coal in the trains. It's also unloading large amounts of copper, and we also have to fit stone into it. So I move out of the way the wood chest that we had, because we did have a chest that was taking wood out of trains, because of this one time where I accidentally loaded a bunch of wood into all of the trains that were coming through the station. It's obsolete now. There shouldn't be any more need to unload wood from any trains in this station ever. So we can move that up and make some more room, and we can put a proper unloading system following the standard style. And that gives us 4 smart inserters, each loading into its own chest, and then each chest is unloaded by an individual fast inserter. And that should be good. That should increase our production, well, our supply rate enough that we don't have to worry about it anymore. So we'll do some more flooring, because there's a bunch more concrete built up. In fact, a bit too much. I think the chest had maybe filled up, or either way, I know that I couldn't fill my inventory with all of the concrete that was there. I don't think it was quite full, but it was close. So we'll just floor whatever we can, trying to just cover everything. We've got all the wall covered. We're sort of working in from there, because that's sort of the edge. So we're doing the lines and then colouring in inside, essentially. So setting up the light production, just one assembler, and because we have iron rods being siphoned off from a different bit of production, specifically the production for rails, we can just easily have that delivered in. The annoying thing about setting up the requester chests for the system is that whenever you define what is being delivered, it always assumes it's a full stack. So you say, I want there to be like 10 circuits here, and you put in circuits and there's 200, then you have to bring it back down to 10. But in the meantime, the bots bring along 200 anyway, and then you just have to hope that in the process of filling up the provider chest that's handy, it uses up the circuit so as not to waste it. But we have a bit of trouble with that with advanced circuits because they're quite short, and I think it's one of the bits of production that's already been set up. Just has a bunch of advanced circuits sat in it, not being made use of, while there are other systems that need the advanced circuits to continue their production, so that's no good. Anyway, the next bit of production we're setting up is the inserters. We've got fast and long-armed inserters being stored in the megatrain, so we're going to try assembling them over here, but I want to set it up a little bit differently because with them... what was I going to say? Oh yeah, with them both coming from standard inserters, you really want to have a standard inserter assembler feeding into the two of them, because it would just be wasteful to have a bot deliver something 2 feet from one assembler to the next assembler along. The only thing is we've got the substation in the way, so we've got to work out. We've got to move it really. I say work out. There's not really that much to work out. We just need to move the substation up so that there is enough room. Though I realised later that I didn't need to have a provider chest. Because it was just going to be going into the two assemblers above and below. But there's one in anyway, in case it's needed, in case there's ever a need to request standard inserters here. Maybe if somehow the main base is destroyed and then science gets reset, we need to do research again and make smart inserters. I don't know. I might orchestrate that. That could be fun. But yeah, we'll set that all up. Fairly simple. Doing the normal stuff, getting gears and plates and stuff being delivered in as necessary. It goes from the middle inserter to the two above and below, and then it goes into the provider chest and it gets delivered off to the requester chests that feed into the megatrain. And seeing as we've set up the requester chests and not put any stuff in them, it does mean that the system has a job. A lot of this stuff, because we've set up requester chests, it has a requester chest to fill, even if the megatrain is completely full of the stuff anyway. Because the thing is, with lights and inserters and stuff, I just manually make them anyway. And I'd even do that if I was out in the field with the megatrain. The only reason I'd stop doing that is if I ran out of iron and copper, which would be interesting, because we have like an entire cargo wagon dedicated to transporting iron, copper and steel. Anyway, setting up two more requester chests. We've actually ended up having to put some on the other side of Cargo Wagon 8 because there's just so many different things that we have a full bank of either 12 or 14 requester chests on one side. We have to put another 2 on the other side just so that we can load enough stuff in. And I think all of the slots on either side of the Cargo Wagon have been filled by either requester or provider chests. So I got the exact right number, I guess. So we'll set up the final 2 bits of production here, which are radars and pump jacks. Not really important. We're probably never going to use pump jacks out here, because who can be bothered with that? But we'll have it anyway for completeness. And with that, I think we have everything being produced that the megatrain uses, except for the stuff that's being unloaded to make the other stuff. So there we go. Lovely bank of them. It's ended up as a nice rectangle. Though that is partially because I forgot about the wooden and the steel chests, and also it's not quite lined up because the production of destroyer drones is not quite lined up properly. What I'm considering is swapping out the destroyer drone storage, or at least like a third of it in the megatrain, for distractor capsule storage, because they are as powerful as destroyer drones and significantly cheaper, because you use like 4 destroyer drones to make one set of no, I mean you use 4 distractors to make one set of destroyers. So considering how much we need now in terms of destroyers, we might want to sort of cut down and start using distractors more, because they are as powerful as far as I know. The only difference is that they don't move, so if you just dump them in the middle of a base, it can sometimes be more effective than a destroyer, because it goes straight for the spawners and the worms and things, rather than worrying about what's coming out of them continuously first. So I might look into that in future. But anyway, I'm going to sort out the power in Midpoint. We hadn't got to the point where there was a power problem, but we were sort of reaching the limits of the power system, both in terms of solar panels, which you can see we're only just finishing charging the accumulators just as night was falling. And then the accumulators, as you can see, it's halfway through night and we're halfway through the accumulators. So it's even possible that at some point in the morning there is a little bit of a power dip. but I didn't notice it because I was working on the power, putting in some new solar panels and accumulator squares. As normal, using the construction bots of the Midpoint base because I don't have any of the stuff handy on my person. The only issue with that being that there is not enough in the way of solar panels and accumulators to fully set this up, because there is only what is being stored in the provider chests in the production of the solar panels and accumulators, and I think the batteries had run out, so the accumulator supply had shut down entirely. I think the solar panels were still going, but it was taking a while just because of how many I asked to be deployed. So I grab a bunch out of the train and get the bots to sort them out. Some of it I stick in the trash slot so that the Midpoint's bots can put it in, and the ones that the Midpoint's logistics bots deliver back to me again, I think that's what they did. I can't remember now. I don't know if that would make sense, but the ones I had remaining, I used my own bots to finish that off, and that's what I do with the solar panels as well. But there are two that I can't reach, so I quickly dump them into the trash slots, and the construction bots managed to get there first. It's always a bit of a race before the logistics bots can grab them and steal them away. So there we go. The power should be fine now. I think we've either doubled it or we've nearly doubled it. Either way, there should be plenty, and really, the factory should be working on like close to as fast as you could expect it to at the moment, with me and the megatrain being present. It could work harder if the megatrain left for ages and then came back and needed a bunch of supplying done. And I also asked for like an entire cargo wagon full of rails or something. Then we could run into some power issues, but it's probably fine. And it should definitely be enough to defend against any biter attacks while we're not around. Because of course the factory will be basically shut down, the accumulators will all be full, it'll all be good. So we're setting up the remainder of our defensive wall system. We've connected up the walls of the iron outpost and the main Midpoint base, and then we're also putting in our partitioning wall in between the two, which we're heavily fortifying, perhaps too heavily. I sort of forgot that this wasn't a frontline defensive wall, and it wasn't that important that it was heavily defended, though saying that if biter forces manage to get through the defenses of the iron outpost, it's quite possible that they will be pretty hefty and pretty capable when it comes to blowing up walls, and we'd need some good defenses to deal with them. So we've lined that we've lined that up with turrets and armed them to the 9s. Finishing off putting in the remaining ammo, we had to go and resupply and put a little bit extra on that bit just because it sort of messes up the belt, is in the way of stuff. We'll have to run the power down so that we can get all the laser turrets being powered. That should all be good. They are connected at multiple points. That's always a good idea, because if the biters do somehow manage to blow up one of the power poles, you could run into all sorts of issues, particularly considering that there are gaps in the defensive line, both like going into the main wall and in the partition wall. There are some gaps because of the way the rails are arranged. I didn't really think it through enough, and I didn't leave any room for gates, so there just have to be holes in it. We just have to make sure that they're well defended. Anyway, I've decided I'm not going to do any flooring in the iron section of the outpost because it's taking long enough to do the main bit, and we won't be coming over here very often. So I just decided to put in some nice paths. Excuse me, some nice paths. I got too happy about that. Some nice paths made of stone bricks. It's in a similar style to what I'm doing in Factorio towns. I'm sort of having, I mean, even though it makes sense to have concrete as the paths as well as everything else. Just for a bit of variability, I'm going to use concrete for the sort of the main base flooring, and then I'm going to use just standard stone for the paths. If you're driving on them, you can never sort of stay on the path long enough for it to matter very much whether it is made of stone or concrete anyway. Anyway, I'm making a complete pig's ear of this right now, trying to get it to work properly, because it's just a little zigzag pattern, and that makes a nice diagonal thing. In the end, I just do it manually, moving the mouse instead of just trying to run along and do it, because every time I tried to do that, I ended up drawing it completely wrong. And then we'll connect it up to the gate that we have at the other end. We've got two gates because why not? One's next to the iron line, one is next to the rails. So wherever I happen to be, I can easily access a gate and get over there. Not that it's particularly vital; it's mostly for the look of the thing. I do have to move things around a bit because there's a little bit of a pond, and the ponds have huge areas that you can't build paths on around them. It's a bit annoying. It seems like more than is necessary, because surely the water doesn't actually like affect the tiles that far. I don't really understand it. Maybe it's some sort of design choice or something. So yeah, I had to move the path up a bit so that I could properly put it in. And we'll do a little bit more flooring with what we have remaining, and we're pretty much done for the day. We've got a lot covered now. We've got all the assemblers covered, and we're approaching the point where we're going to set off back around the lake. But anyway, that's enough for today. I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.